Danielle here with Scrapbook Maven. I had several people ask about my Graphic 45 and Eerie Tale album and how I constructed it. And so I wanted to go over how I made the pages for my book. They measure 6 by 6 and they're little pocket pages. And they are interactive in that they flip out like this. And then they flip up like that. And so, like I said, a couple of people asked about it, and especially Natasha. I hope this answers any questions that you have. I won't go over the binding, as I just did the simple binding that Claire at Mad Creative Spirit, she has a tutorial for it, and several other people on YouTube have done fabulous tutorials for the binding. So I just wanted to go over my little take on the pocket page, and since I kind of figured it out on my own, I'm sure there might be something similar to it out there, but this is my take on it. And so what you're going to need is you're going to need a scoreboard, and for each page you're going to need a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. So we are going to start scoring at 1/4 of an inch. I like to have a small little tab for my pocket page to close, because I like to have larger flaps. So this will enable us to have a larger flap. So 1/4 of an inch, and then 6 1/4 we're going to score again. And then we are going to rotate it 90 degrees and score again at 6. So this will give us a 6 by 6 inch pocket. So we have, I'll go over it again, a score at 1/4 of an inch, a score at 6 1/4, then we rotate it 90 degrees, and we score it at 6 inches. So I'm just going to go over all of my score lines and fold. Line it up a little better. So these little flaps will be about 5 3/4. So it'll give you plenty of room to do a decorative edge, punch, or use a die. And let me score this little flap here. And so what we're going to do is we are going to remove just one of these flaps. So I'm going to come in at an angle here and here, and then just totally remove this one. And I'm going to go above, hopefully it's in the shot. I'm going to go up, so here's my score line. I'm just going to go slightly above it and cut. And you can use your paper trimmer for this. I'm just going to use my scissors, because I don't need a super straight line, because it will be covered in my pocket. So it folds over like that, and then your flap will come over like that. And that's why we clipped off the little corners so nothing hangs over. And I like to have the flap on the outside of my pocket so that when I insert tags, it doesn't catch on this little lip. And then this just gets covered with design paper anyways, so you don't really see this flap. But before we close our pocket page, we are going to cut along this score line right here. So we have our little flap down here, and we're going to fold it over like that for a pocket page. But before that, we're going to just cut right along here from the outside edge down to the 6 inch score line. So I'm going to use my paper cutter for that. And I put a new blade on, so hopefully it will cooperate with me. Just to the 6-inch mark. And so we have our paper looking like this. We have our little flap here, and we have this little cut here. So we're going to fold this over, and I'm just going to use a little wet adhesive for my little flap. I tend to use a lot of wet glue. I just like it. I feel like I can squish it out to the edge. And I do like score tape. I use that for my binding. If it leaks out, no big deal, because you'll, like I said, you'll have some design paper to cover it. So what we have here, we have our little pocket page right here, and we have a little opening on this side to attach the binding. And so what we're going to do is with this top piece, we're going to fold behind. Over. And this one will get turned over like that. So let's flip it back over again, and I'll show you how it looks here. So we have this page right here, and this is where we're going to have our little cutout like this. If you like, I like to have little cutouts for a tag, so we're going to have our little cutout here. This is where it attaches to the book. And then when you flip it over, you have your little flap here. And then you have your little flip up here. And so that's how I did this page. So I hope that was pretty clear. Now, if you want your interactive part to be on the front and then your little pocket on the back side, you just, instead of cutting on this side, you'd cut on this side. And so then it would be like this one, and you'd have it attached to your book here. You'd have your interactive pages that flip out and then up. Then you flip it over, and you'd have your little pocket page. So I hope that answered your questions for my pocket page. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you using black cardstock. This is what I'm going to use for my next mini album. I was going to do Graphic 45's Time to Celebrate, but because I'm just in love with Marian Smith's romance novel Chapter 2, I'm just going to make a mini album with that and base it on my Graphic 45 and Eerie Tale Mini Album, so you can see what the album looks like with the Eerie Tale paper and then with the Marian Smith paper using the same kind of pocket page. So just like before, we are going to score it at 1/4 inch. Then at 6 1/4. Rotate it 90 degrees and then score at 6 inches. And then we'll just fold our edges over. We will cut off our little piece here. Again, above our little score line. Cut off the little corner. So that will be our pocket page right here. Oops. Like that. And all we have to do is cut this one right here. From our 6-inch score line And then that'll fold back like that. Fold back, and that will fold back also. And we have our little pocket page there. So I'm just going to do that while I have my cutter out. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to glue our little envelope or pocket pages together. So I'm just going to put some glue along the little flap and just fold it up. And use a bone folder to make sure it squeezes all the way out. You just have a flap up and a flap down. So it's just like the base page we've already done, except we are going to remove a whole section. This piece off right here. So we have our little flap down here. And we're going to cut out, instead of just doing this one cut across here, we're going to go across and then up this 6-inch score line. Okay? Move that section here. And I'm just going to glue down our little flap so we have our little pocket page. So we have our little flap here, and this one's going to go behind. So we're just going to fold it on that score line. So we have our little, we do a little cutout here so we can get our tag out easier, and then we turn the page and we have our little flap here, and then we're going to put our little flap down here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to cut off a little bit because I don't like it too close to the spine. So I'm going to cut off maybe 1/8 of an inch or so. And then this is a little flap here too, so I'm going to cut off just a little bit off of that also. Because I've noticed on my Eerie Tale album that when you close the pages sometimes, and they're right here where the spine is, and it's flush with the 6-inch page base, it starts to bend. So like this page is slightly smaller, as you can see, it's slightly smaller than the 6-inch base, and so there's no it's not getting caught on the spine. So I like just to cut off just a little bit off of each of the pages here, so it won't get stuck and catch on the spine. So you can see, hopefully, that it's just slightly smaller than the 6-inch base page. The outside can be flush with the base 6-inch base, because this will be on the outside right here, and it's not going to catch on anything. It's just where it touches the spine. So we have our little flap like that. So we're going to do our little 1/4 inch flap. And then cut off the corners. Put some glue on our little flap. And we want to line it up nice and flush with the end. Let me see here. So we'll have our base page, flip it over, and it'll flip up and it'll flip down. I know it's so hard to see in black. So we have our first page here, and then we have this page here. And so the only difference is we have a little flap that goes down. And so I will show you how to do that. You're just going to have, obviously this is going to be in black. You're going to have your base page. You're going to do a little 1/4 inch flap again. And then you're just going to adhere the little flap down at the bottom here, just like that. And then you'll have your little flap down. So I'll do that in just a minute with my black cardstock. We have these little flip ups and just the pocket page, which I messed up and I cut it too short. So that's why this one is a little shorter and doesn't go all the way up to the top. But I'll show you how to do this little flap where the this flap moves up when you move this flap, so it lets you know, hey, flip me up too. So I'll show you how to do that. So in order to allow for this flap to be on this front, because normally we have the little cutout for our tag, we'll have to cut it the opposite way so that we have the cutout on the back. Normally we would cut we have a little flap on this side, we're going to cut here, but this time we're going to cut right here. Should have folded this slightly so I can see where I'm cutting. A little bit. Right up to that 6-inch mark. So let's do our flap real quick. Make our pocket page. Okay. So we're going to have our little flap in the front. We're going to have our interactive piece in the front now because this is where it's attaching. Pages here. So we need this piece right here because it's part of our flap, and then we'll remove this piece right here. I'm just going to do it this way. So now we have this flap that we can attach down below for our other flap. Perfect. So there's no waste with this album. I'm trying to use all my papers very efficiently. So here we go. A 1/4 inch flap, or you can do a larger flap if you want. For this one, I did it looks to be a 1/2 inch or 3/8 of an inch flap. So we can do that. We'll do a 3/8 of an inch flap. And we'll fold it on the score line and then cut off the little corners again. And what I recommend before adding it to your page is if you're going to do any kind of decorative edge, on this album I just rounded the corners so it was pretty easy. so you can attach it and then round the corners. But for these flaps over here on your other pages and whatnot, it got really tricky to put it through the Big Shot to do the edge, but this, you don't have a choice really with this one because it's already attached. But ones like this that were added on afterwards, I'd recommend putting it through your Big Shot and then attaching it to your album. But for this one, I'm probably just going to round the corners again. So I'm not going to glue it to the base of the page, this 6x6 part. I'm going to glue the flap to this flap to this flap. And so it's going to be like this. So open up your flap and it's going to just lay right down like that. So I'll get my glue. And I'll put it right above the score line so it doesn't interfere with the score line. I want to make sure I line it up properly. And I love wet adhesive because I can move it around a little bit if I end up not liking where I first put it. With score tape, you're kind of, you have a little bit of wiggle room. You can peel it off and then replace it, but I like being able to just slide it over slightly to get it to where exactly I want it. And so when you lift it up like this, and you can't really tell because it's black, you lift it up like this, this one lifts up with it. So let me burnish it a little bit so it folds easier. So we open it up like that, and then this one lifts up also. So you're just going to fold it, attach it to the flap like I said. And that's how that one goes. And then you flip it over and then you have your pocket page. So those are your 4 pages using 4 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock, and you have all your pages for your album. And so I'm going to use these pages for my romance novel chapter 2 album that I'm hopefully will have up by next week. And then just use an extra 12 by 12 piece of paper and cut it into 4s or whatever the size you want for your inserts. And then with 5 pieces of paper, you've got all your pages and pocket tags done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this album. And if you use this tutorial to make a mini album of your own, I would love for you to share it with me. I hope it was clear and not too crazy. Tutorials aren't my strong point, obviously, but I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea on how I made my Graphic 45 and Eerie Tale mini album. And I will be sharing my romance novel mini album hopefully next week, like I said. Okay, so I was looking at the video of the tutorial that I made, and I thought it might be better if you saw the page with actual design papers on there. So what I did is I went ahead and did one of the pages for my romance novel chapter 2 mini album, and I did it a little different using the same exact base page, just like my Eerie Tale album, but instead of having it like this, like I was talking about with the pocket here, then you flip it over and you have your interactive flaps, I flipped it over and then rotated it so that what was originally our top loading pocket is now our place where we're going to bind it, and then we have where we're originally binding it is going to be my top loading pocket. And so the interactive flaps will be on the front. And what that does is makes it so that originally we had our pocket here. Now our pocket's on the back. So where we had before flips out and then flips up, we have this one that flips down and then flips over. So you can use the same base page, and like I say, get all these different looks with it. And then you can even get this totally different feel by having the flaps go a different way. And it's the same exact base page done the same exact way. All you're doing is just turning it and flipping it over. So instead of having it bind here and pocket here, it binds here and has your pocket here. So I hope that is a little easier to visualize when you have design paper on there to see what I'm talking about. And so you also get to see a little sneak peek of my Marian Smith Romance Novel Chapter 2 mini album that I'm working on for you guys. So I hope that cleared any confusion that you might have had visualizing what I was talking about. And I hope you try this out, like I said, and thank you so much for watching. And if you try this out, please, I'd love to see some projects that you guys have made using this tutorial. And stay tuned for my Marian Smith Chapter 2 mini album. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.